just in case. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Giras Maharaj ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadri ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda. So, good evening, good afternoon to all of you. A pleasure to be here. Sorry for not being able to be in the morning. Hopefully tomorrow you will see me. And today we are, in one sense, starting more officially with a series of lectures on Mahaprabhu and his experience in Jagannath Puri, if you will. This has happened because mainly on this weekend, on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we are celebrating Rath Yatra according to the Panjika, to the Vaishnava calendar. Rath Yatra is there. So here Shyamananda Prabhu suggested very intelligently, like, okay, we can give some series of lectures building up to the Rath Yatra, like all the previous sections that converge into this important high point of Mahaprabhu's stay in Puri called the Rath Yatra, the chariot festival with Jagannath. So, and this is typical. We have done some similar series like this. I remember some time back in Madhuban in Costa Rica, we made some series pre-Janmashtami, Harikatha. So 1 week before the advent of Sri Krishna, we made a series of lectures about, again, building up to that particular moment. So there is place for that in our Gaudiya tradition. It's a very nice way of preparing our consciousness for one specific event, and in the context of that, of course, entering through many other significant events at the same time. So along these days, mainly today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and some other days, we will be speaking about Mahaprabhu in Puri. So today in particular, the idea is to share some words about Sri Chaitanya's arrival to Jagannath Puri, which is not just arrival. Like, he took a ticket and got on that day, and that's his arrival. But there's a whole series of things that happened on his way, because, as you know, there was no ticket to get to Puri, but it was just by feet walking from one place to another, from Navadvip. Actually, Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. We won't go into that direction. That's a whole separate series of lectures, maybe for another retreat. But Nimai Vishwambar Mishra, he accepted sannyas in Katwa from Keshav Bharati at 24, and then eventually he ended up in Puri by the very wise advice of his mother, Sri Sachi Devi. As Guru Maharaj will say, mother knows best. So whenever he accepted sannyas, eventually he was taken by Nityananda Prabhu by some transcendental cheating to Shantipur. Mahaprabhu wanted to run to Vrindavan, but he was taken to Shantipur nearby Navadvip, where Advaita Acharya was there, and many other devotees were there, including Sachimata, who was to see Mahaprabhu one more time, if you will, for one more last time, if you will, before his going to Puri in this case. But the point is that Mahaprabhu goes to Sachimata and says, in the moment of madness, I did this stuff. I accepted sannyas. I mean, to accept sannyas is weird stuff. Basically. So he said, I abandoned everything because, again, Mahaprabhu, for his devotee, he's our Vishwambar, our Nimai Nadia. Like a sannyas is like a strange figure for them, like shaved, where are his curly locks, his beautiful tomboy now accepting the renunciation, the rod of renunciation, showing severe vairagya. Oh my God, this is like a thunderbolt for the heart of Mahaprabhu's associates in Nadia. Oh, well, the point is that he says to Tachi, in a moment of madness, I took this sannyas. So what to do now? If you tell me, I go back home and I accept. I leave the sannyas. Imagine, he accepts sannyas and almost the next day he was thinking about leaving sannyas. Or higher purpose in this case. There is something higher than sannyas. But Sachi thought, no, I don't want you to have bad reputation as a mamachari or something like this. No? Like you go back home and you stay there, and which type of sannyas is that one? So I couldn't tolerate that people may defame you. And also we know the purpose of Mahaprabhu sannyas, the external purpose at least, was to establish himself in society with good reputation, so his message could be properly heard. Because again, some guy appears with all these weird saffron robes and one stick in the hand, and everyone say, "Oh, I have to hear him seriously." Maybe not now, but in India in that time, that was the case. No? Sannyasi always commanded attention. So he took this as a preaching strategy. Krishna, the Lampatas we spoke yesterday, the playboy, as a sannyas. No. But of course, as we also explained, Mahaprabhu's sannyas has an internal meaning, as we said yesterday, I think, right? In connection to Krishna trying to repay his debt of love with the gopis, and renouncing everything, his own town, his own dearmost and closest people, for the sake of pursuing this Radha Bhav, and wearing the cloth, the saffron color, which has to do with Radha's Bhav in separation, as we mentioned, her kumkum, her tears, saffron. So, so interestingly, when Mahaprabhu said that to Sachi, he said, "If you tell me I leave my sannyas and return home," he said, no, continue as a sannyas, but please, where to stay then? Where I will establish my headquarters, you say? So she very wisely suggested you can establish yourself in Jagannath Puri, because Jagannath Puri, she says, it's like a second room in the same house. Mayapur, Navadvip, and Jagannath Puri is not that far as, I don't know, Vrindavan and Jagannath Puri or somewhere else. So it's relatively, I mean, it's not that close either. It's not that you walk for half an hour and you're there, but it's not that close in the sense that she said, there will be always some dynamic of devotees coming and going from one place to the other. So I will always receive news from you. I mean, she knew from this day on, I will never see you again, because the sannyas, strictly speaking, especially in that times and society, the sannyasi leaves home, leaves the hometown, leaves family, never to return. So strong. Of course, she always saw him on a daily basis in different spurtis, ambitions. And he was always there, as we know. He went there and ate all the offerings she made. That's another thing. But Jesus suggested you please establish yourself in Jagannath Puri. So the external reason has to do with, it's not so far, there will always be news about you, and I will maintain myself alive along with Vishnu Priya in separation from you. But also, again, the internal reason, because we have always to think in these two terms: external reason, internal reason. So everything that is happening in Gaur Lila is happening in these two parallel sections always. You can explain all from the external reason of Mahaprabhu's descent and also from the internal reason. So which was the internal reason for Mahaprabhu's descent? You know. Yeah, to taste basically Radha Bhav in brief words. So in this case, what's the meaning for that? What's the meaning of going to Jagannath Puri in the context of tasting Radha Bhav? In the context of the external reason, he's sannyasi, he's preaching, establishing the Yuga, Dharma, and so on. And Satya suggested that, but internally,
it's like hidden Vrindavan.
That's one way of saying Gupta Vrindavan, and especially Jagannath Puri is known as Vipralamba Kshetra. Vipralamba Kshetra, which means the field of separation, the ideal place for culturing this mood of separation. Then we will find Sri Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. You can, I mean, we won't speak in detail today about them, mostly on the day of Rath Yatra, but their particular figure, totem-like figures, actually speak about intense love and separation. So Jagannath Puri is the ideal stage for the project that Sri Krishna Chaitanya had in mind, which is, I have to taste Radha. Is Krishna, remember, full with greed about tasting Radha Bhav. And tasting Radha Bhav will be mainly tasting Radha Bhav in separation from Krishna. The main experience of Mahaprabhu is tasting the mood of Sri Radha in separation from Krishna. So Jagannath Puri is the place par excellence for that. So in a very wise way also, such is advice coincided with this inner necessity, of the inner purpose of Mahaprabhu. So in this way, Mahaprabhu decides to establish himself in Jagannath Puri. So he begins his journey from the area or of Bengal, where he was Mayapur, then Shantipur. He visits some places on the way. As we say the other day, Kumarhata also, where Srivas Pandit had moved. And eventually he starts to walk towards Jagannath Puri with some few associates. Some of them will join him in Jagannath Puri permanently. And as we will see, some other associates will visit him on a yearly basis, 4 months per year for the period of Chaturmasya, which includes Ratha Yatra and so on. So on the way to Jagannath Puri, again, it's not a half an hour walk. No, it takes days and weeks. No, it's not just, but it's relatively close. India is a big place. So there are some things that happen on the way. So we will speak today about a little bit of what happens on the way to Jagannath Puri and what's the main event on the arrival to Jagannath Puri, which is the main event. There is the conversion of Bhattacharya Sarvabhauma. But first, in Chaitanya Charitamrita mainly, but also some of the things, what I will sharing with you these days come from these two main biographies of Sri Chaitanya Dev, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. So first of all, it is described that on his way, Mahaprabhu was stopping along with some associates. He was stopping in different holy spots, different places, different temples, venerating different forms of the Absolute there. So in his way to Puri, he visits one place called Remuna. I don't know if you have heard about that, or you have been there. Remuna is especially famous for one deity that Mahaprabhu visited called Chor Gopinath. Chor Gopinath. Chor Gopinath means Gopinath who steals Chor, Kheer. Kheer. How to translate? Like sweet rice. Yeah, a particular, we will see a particular type of syrup. So he stops in this temple, and this temple already had a very ancient story. It's not famous because Mahaprabhu stopped there only. Also for us, that's an added feature, but it had a very special background story that Mahaprabhu starts to share when stopping in the temple on his way to Puri. And this is closely connected with another personality, very important for us as Gaudias, called Madhavendra Puri Ki Jai, who is considered for all of us like the one who somehow or other originally started to express that type of mood that Mahaprabhu himself eventually cultivated in a systematic way and became basically the gift of the Sampradaya, if you will. So all this goes back to Madhavendra Puri in Vrindavan. So for 1 minute, try to travel with me in your mind from Remuna to Vrindavan, more specifically to Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan. So Madhavendra Puri was there for a moment. He was at that time like in wandering mendicant, nomad, if you will, rolling on the ground here and there and arriving to different sacred spots. So one day, I will, of course, I have to make some summary of all these sections because it's impossible to narrate all of them in detail. So suddenly one day, Srila Madhavendra Puri, who, just for you to have an idea, Madhavendra Puri will be, how do you say in English? The grandfather. I mean, the guru of Mahaprabhu's guru, basically. Do you have some extra Param Guru there? Let's go to the Sanskrit. No? Better get accustomed to that. So Mahaprabhu's guru is Ishvara Puri, and Ishvara Puri's Guru Dev is Sri Padmalakandra Puri. So also there is this important connection between Mahaprabhu and his Param Guru Dev. So one day Madhavendra Puri, he's in Govardhan, and one very charming little cowherd boy comes to him with a bowl of milk. Remember, which was the standard of Madhavendra Puri? I think we spoke the other day, right? His standard was just like, if Krishna wants me to eat, well, he will provide. I have full trust. And Krishna wants me to fast, he won't provide. I have full trust. So that was his stance. I don't want to take some personal initiative of I want this. I will even beg for food or something like this. So this boy came once to Madhavendra Puri offering to him a bowl of milk and asking him why you are not engaging in Madhukar, why you are not begging for food yourself. So Madhavendra Puri was explaining, and Madhavendra Puri then started to inquire from him, who are you, basically? And I say, well, I'm one, how to say, I'm a Gopa from this town, basically. And my duty basically here is that nobody in this area, in this village, goes hungry, basically. So if someone is hungry, it's my dharma, to provide for them, basically. So in my village, nobody fasts. I know, sorry, this is your standard sometimes, but here, sorry, the boys say, no. And especially knowing that you are not like begging for yourself, I took as my own responsibility to daily bringing something. So here, this bowl of milk, please take that and take care. Don't throw the bowl. I will come tomorrow to pick the bowl and bring it again back with milk. So, okay. Madhavendra Puri was at that time he was feeling some particular attraction to that boy. He was like not able to take it out of his mind, even when he left. So he was totally like astonished and wondering. He wanted to sleep and was not able to sleep for a moment. So he started to chant and chant. Eventually he fell asleep. And when he was sleeping, some dream came. No? And this boy appeared again in the dream. He took him Madhavendra Puri by his hand and telling to him, taking him into the middle of a jungle. Remember, at that time, Vrindavan was more like a forest jungle or something like that. It was not like now with guest house and stuff like this. But it was just like a jungle. The Goswami started to make that more available, if you will, putting temples in here and there. So this boy in the dream said to Madhavendra Puri, well, I'm here in this place in the midst of the jungle, and I'm for quite a long time here. And so I'm not so comfortable being here, and I'm hungry, and I feel like kind of hot here. So help me with dealing with all this. Vrindavan is quite hot in summer, as you know. So please take me out of the jungle. Basically, the boy is saying, the same boy to Madhavendra Puri in the dream, and put me in Govardhan. Locate me in Govardhan, and place a temple there, construct a temple there, install me in that temple in Govardhan. All this in the dream of Mahavendra Puri. And also the boy said in the dream, and I have been looking at you for quite a long time. I've been like following your case, basically. And I was really waiting for you to come to Vrindavan. So it's so nice that we are meeting together now. And my name is Gopal. I introduce myself to you. I am Gopal, the one who lived the Govardhan Hill. Maybe that's not. He introduced himself as such. I'm Gopal, also known as Giridhari. Yeah, that's some feat connected to some things I did in the past. And I was installed here as a deity by Vajranav. Vajranav is Krishna's grandson or great-grandson or something, some thousands of years back. But now, after some time, when the Muslims attacked the area, the pujari that was worshipping this deity, all this is shared by Gopal himself to Madhavendra Puri in the dream. The pujari has to hit me because of the Muslim attack. So he had to hit me in this particular area of the jungle here in Braj. So please take me out of that. I'm quite uncomfortable there now. And I want you to worship me. I was waiting for you, basically. Try to imagine. And the boy disappears and Madhavendra Puri wakes up. So you can imagine. Imagine if you have such a dream one night. What will you do with your life the next day? So Mahavendra Puri, of course, he's fully aware of what happened. It was not only a dream. In the scriptures, to say that divine revelation can come in different ways, and one of them is through dreams as well. There are many cases. A lot, especially in connection with Jagannath and Jagannath Puri. So he wakes up and he's so much like enlivened by the experience he had and realizing, oh my God, this Gopal, this boy that brought milk to me yesterday is my Gopal, my Ishtadev. And as a form, in the form of a deity, he's asking me this particular seva. So, I mean, I'm all for that. So he woke up and he started to share his dream with all the Brajavasis. And he has such a deep conviction and insight that he was able to convince the whole of Vrindavan to help him to find the deity and construct the temple. I mean, that speaks about Madhavendra Puri's bhakti, because imagine you had a dream and you woke up and you start to convince the whole town. I had this dream and we have to everyone say, you're totally crazy. I mean, like, keep dreaming. But Madhavendra Puri was Madhavendra Puri. So basically, he said to all of them, the very owner of this place, Govardhan Dhari, Giridhari, Gopal, he appeared in a dream. He appeared yesterday to me, and he's in the jungle. He's here and there. So we have to rescue him. He's uncomfortable there. So bring all of you, how to say, machete? All this stuff for cleaning the path and finding him. So all the town like joined him very joyfully with full trust, and eventually they arrived to the sacred spot, and there it was, Gopal. Shri Gopal Ji ki jai. So they took him to Govardhan because he asked that, I want to be situated in Govardhan, and they put him in a particular rock in Govardhan that serves as a provisional altar. And then the deity was installed with a great festival before the temple was eventually constructed. So many people from the whole, not only Braj, but gradually the news started to spread to nearby areas, started to bring different offerings from the Abhishek for offering bhoga to him. So it is said that it was like similar as what we know in the Bhagavatam as the Anakut celebration that took place in the Govardhan Lila. Then when Krishna canceled the worship of Indra and say you have to offer all this to Giriraj, and there was huge quantities of preparation. There was another Giriraj of bhoga. So it is said that in this particular moment with Madhavendra Puri, remember Gopal was hungry many years without eating. So great offering. That was the sensibility of the Brajavasis. Oh, he has been here for so long. Nobody made an offering for so long. He must be so hungry. That's the psychology of Vrindavan. It's not like, oh, he's God, self-satisfied. He doesn't need anything. But as we said the other day, he's so needy. Especially now. I mean, he was hidden here for thousands of years. So he has to eat a lot. So they started to bring bhoga and different offerings. So it is said that Gopal accepted all these offerings. And all the Brajavasis were feeling, by the grace of Madhavendra Puri, all of us are feeling like if we are celebrating again this Anakut ceremony that took place when Krishna left Giriraj. Because again, Gopal is Giridhari. So it was like a kind of second Govardhan Lila, with Madhavendra Puri, if you will. And interestingly, the experience was so moving for everyone that people from nearby villages asked for Madhavendra Puri, please come to our village and let's celebrate another Anakut Mahotsav with you there. So it is said that he followed the desire of these other devotees in different areas. So for many months he was, after installing Gopal in Vrindavan, going to different villages and celebrating one Anakut festival after the other in different places. So that continued for some time. Gopal was there. But then came a second dream to Madhavendra Puri, which is more connected. Remember, all this is in the context of Mahaprabhu's in Ramuna and Kirachor Gopinath. Try to, maintain that in context. The second deity, now there will be some connection. So in that second dream, Gopal told to Madhavendra Puri, well, you took me out of the jungle where I was really suffering from heat, surrounded by grass and whatever, but I'm still like suffering from high, almost feverish, like I'm hot, so I need to be refreshed somehow or other. So please bring some sandalwood paste for me from Jagannath Puri. He didn't say go to Loi Bazaar and get some sandalwood paste. bring from Jagannath Puri, which is, as I say, not that close as it is from Navadvip. Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri, again, walking is not just, okay, I will have the ticket. Nowadays, that's our, as one devotee said the other day, I like that idea. He said, nowadays we travel to the dam by plane, and I understand it's practical, especially living on the Western countries. But we may arrive to Vrindavan tomorrow by plane, but our minds will arrive there 1 week after. You know? But in the old times, the devotees went to Vrindavan walking, and that may took months. So their minds arrived to Vrindavan months before arriving there physically. Because in their pilgrimage and arriving there internal, they were already longing and you follow. But that's a nice way of appreciating also this type of ancient dynamics, if you will. So basically, Gopal asked this to Madhavendra, please go to Jagannath Puri, get some sandalwood paste, eventually grind that and apply that on my bodies, and only then I will be like refreshed. Which again, it may seem like whimsical. Like Madhavendra Puri was not a young boy to begin with. He was not young. And to walk from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri, from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan, that may take a long time. And maybe some sandalwood paste may be available nearby, but Gopal has his ways, basically. And Madhavendra Puri was there to live for that, basically. So he didn't have a doubt at any moment. He didn't thought, you are too whimsical. Ask me something else. Can I get some, I don't know, peacock feather fan and that's enough or something? Sandalwood paste from Puri. No. No doubt at all. Immediately like, okay, I'm engaged in Thakurji's seva. I'm so blessed. I mean, what else can I ask for? So he started on his way from Vrindavan to Puri, again, months and months of pilgrimage. So on the way to Puri, it is that Madhavendra Puri stopped at Remuna. At this point that Mahaprabhu stopped going to Puri with his associates. You follow the narrative? He's narrating this story being in Remuna. He's telling the story of the famous deity in Remuna called Kir Chor Gopinath. So why Kir Chor Gopinath is famous? Now this is coming to happen. So Madhavendra Puri asked basically, which types of food you offer to the deity here? I would like to know so I can prepare them for my Gopal in Vrindavan. Again, he was absorbed in pleasing his Ishta Devata. So here there is a very famous preparation called Gopinath Kheer, which is, again, sweet rice offered to the deity of Gopinath there in Remuna. So Madhavendra Puri thought, oh, if I just could have a taste of that, so I can know how it tastes and I can prepare that for my Gopal. He didn't thought I could have a taste for that so I can satisfy my tongue, but only so I can know how to prepare that food. But immediately after that thought came, he thought, he said to himself, I'm such a rascal. With the excuse that I want to know how that's prepared for Gopal, actually I want to satisfy my tongue. Actually, it was not like that. But Madhavendra Puri's humility rose there to the surface, and he himself chastised himself about that. So all of this was in his mind. He never said anything. So without a word, he left the temple, ashamed, like embarrassed, like I'm such a sense enjoyer. So he was topmost renunciant. So he went to sleep, basically. So it is said that night, the pujari, the devotee who was worshipping the deity of Gopinath there, at that time was called Gopinath. So that night, the pujari, again, another dream is coming here. So the pujari would say to him, Gopinath said to the pujari in the dream, wake up. I have saved, they are coming. I have saved, I think it was 5 pots or 10. I don't remember how many. Do you remember the quantities? No.
I thought it was 12.
Okay, yeah, there are 12 pots. Or daily they offer certain quantity of pots, let's say, of this kheer to me. But 5 of them or something or whatever, 12, whatever, I have hidden them behind me. And those...
There were 12 in total, but 1 was hidden.
Only 1? Okay, well, whatever the number. No, there were totally 12 offered on a daily basis, according to Shyamananda Das. Just in case you know who to speak about. And Gopinath told him, but there's one that I have saved for Madhavendra Puri. So it's behind myself on the altar. So you go now, pick that kheer, look for Madhavendra Puri. He's a great devotee of mine. And he wanted to taste this kheer. And because of this, he didn't say anything and so on, and give that to him. So you can imagine the Pujari woke up and immediately realized, okay, this is, and he went, of course, to the altar, and there was the one pot of kheer. So again, it was not a mere dream. So he goes to the town because he didn't know who Madhavendra Puri was. So he starts to call like, Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Puri, Gopinath has stolen some kheer for you. So here I brought this. He wants that you to taste it. So you can imagine Madhavendra Puri was so humble. So he felt that. He heard that. He felt so embarrassed. Like I'm such a lowly character, and Gopinath made this for me. And also he felt, oh, I may become famous because of this. That's another thing. But well, we will get to that. So first he accepts that. He receives the kheer, and he honors that. And of course it had an otherworldly taste. But again, he was tasting that, so I can offer that to Gopal. So it is said that after honoring the kheer of that one pot, he breaks the pot, because generally they present this kheer in earthen pots. He broke the earthen pots, and every single day he will eat a piece of the pot as well, not only the kheer in itself. And so he's showing real standard of honoring Mahaprasad. Yeah. To begin with, not for his own satisfaction, but how this I can transform this experience of tasting in further seva, because that was his own intention. And then not only the content is relishable, but the the vessel itself. So he every single day he will eat a piece of this earthen pot and honoring that. But again, he thought, oh, by Gopinath having stolen, again, and from that comes his name, Kheer Chor. Chor means like thief of kheer. Gopinath, the thief of kheer for Madhavan. He said, I will become very, very famous by this. So many people will come and will want to meet me, and I will be, so I better disappear from this place as soon as possible. Because he was not interested basically in that world. So that same day, he left from Ramuna and continued his journey to Puri. So finally, he arrives to Jagannath Puri after a long journey. So he shares the story of Gopal, his deed in Vrindavan. Please bear with me the whole sequence of events, and why Gopal sent him to Puri for finding this sandalwood paste, for being relieved of heat, and so on. So they really believe his story for sure, and they get this sandalwood paste and some camphor, and they get some like government papers, because at that time it was not so easy to travel with this type of substances. And he was bringing a good amount of that. So the Puri devotees got some Brahmins, some priests, and other devotees who will join Madhavendra Puri in his journey back to Vrindavan. And Madhavendra Puri received all the support necessary for his journey and so on. So he started on his way back to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri with all this big like load of sandalwood and camphor to be grinded and eventually offered to Gopal. So at one point, returning from Puri to Vrindavan, he stopped again in Ramona, in this temple of Kirchor Gopinath, one more time. So that same night, Madhavendra Puri had another dream, a third one. And what did happen there? Gopal again appeared to him in a dream and said to him, well, actually between myself and Gopinath, Kirchor Gopinath and myself, we follow the two deities, Ramona and Vrindavan, we are one. Again, another important point of Tattva. I mean, Mahaprabhu here, Mahaprabhu and some other, Mahaprabhu, they are one. So we are one, he said. Myself and Vrindavan and Gopinath here. So the only thing you have to do is to grind all this sandalwood paste and camphor and offer that to Gopinath in Ramona. You don't need to go back to Vrindavan. Offer that to Gopinath, and that is as good as if you are offering that to me in Vrindavan. I will obtain relief from heat if you offer that to Gopinath. So basically, that's what Madhavendra Puri does. And that's the story, basically, that Mahaprabhu is sharing at this point with his associates when stopping at Ramona on his way to Jagannath Puri. Kirachor Gopinath ki jai. So we are here joining Mahaprabhu on his journey to Puri. And then, of course, Mahaprabhu also further extols the glories of Madhavendra Puri by invoking one famous verse. I don't want to get sidetracked in this, but again, we want to get stuck there in eternity. Which again, it's like shows how he was the first one who showed this mode that Mahaprabhu came to taste then. How we say? Ayudina dayadra nata hema turanata kadavalokyase hridayam todaloka kataram daita brahmyati kim karomyam. So then Madhavendra Puri is praying Radha Bhav. Mahaprabhu said only few people understood this verse. Madhavendra Puri, Sri Radha, and Mahaprabhu himself. He's expressing the mood of love in separation. Sri Radha is saying, when will I see my beloved one more time? What can I do? And so on. We won't enter into the details of that verse. That will be another lecture altogether. But basically, Mahaprabhu recites this verse himself, understanding the implications of that verse, and passes out, faints, basically, and show different ecstatic symptoms at that moment without being able to stop repeating the verse, but also without being able of fully repeating the verse due to ecstasy. Gada, like choked throat, basically. So eventually Mahaprabhu recovers from his ecstasy, and he, being in Ramona, still receives this famous sweet rice that of Kirachor Gopinath. You can, even if you go to Ramona, you will receive this Kirachor Gopinath. I didn't have the chance, but all the devotees I know that have tasted that sweet rice told me, like, that's otherworldly.
I can confirm.
Okay, here we have some testimony. So then Mahaprabhu passed the night in the temple of Kirachora Gopinath that particular night, and the next day continued after Mangalarti with his journey. And then he visited some other temples before reaching Jagannath. And one of them, which is also a famous story, I will tell it briefly in this case, is the temple and the deity of another Gopal called Sakshi Gopal. Sakshi Gopal. So Sakshi, well, the deity of Gopal of Madhavendra Puri, just technical information, now is no longer in Vrindavan, but is the famous Nathji deity worshipped by the Balab Sampradaya nowadays. The main deity of the Balavis is this Gopal deity that was worshipped by Madhavendra Puri, but now is worshipped by them. It's a famous deity that of Gopal, like lifting Govardhan with one hand and with his two eyes looking down. You may have seen him. It's a famous story. Let's get stuck there.
Where is it now? The deity?
This is the main city of the Balavis. What's the name of the place?
This is in Gujarat.
Gujarat. Yeah, Gujarat. The main. Sorry. The main place of the Balavis. No, it's not Gujarat.
It's the state. They're in the state of Gujarat.
Yeah. The name, specific name. Well, that's like the headquarters of the Balab Sampradaya. It's not in Vrindavan per se, but it's not that far either. So it's on the tip of the tongue. It does not come. So the famous, why not? I'll continue to translate if you can. So this famous deity of Nathji, as it's called by them, is Krishna lifting Govardhan, looking downstairs, because it is said that when Krishna was lifting Govardhan, at one moment his hand trembled. And his hand trembled means the whole heel trembled. And the whole of Vrindavan was below the heel, and it seemed like, oh, heels tremble. So everyone thought from their different perspective. No, the friends will think, oh, Krishna needs to change the heel to the other hand. He's not strong enough. So Sridham will say, give me the heel to me. Now, I always defeat you in battle on a daily basis, so I'm stronger than you. So just rest for a while, and just so that we'll be coming and feeding him some ladus and kheer and so on, because he feels he's not strong enough. He needs to eat more. And each devotee from their different perspective. But it is said that the ultimate reason was that Sri Krishna was taking darshan of Sri Radha, and at one point, due to the impact of her loving glance, if you will, her prem, he was like, shocked for a moment and started to became transcendently dizzy. So his hand trembled. But everyone else thought something else was the reason. But it is said that at that point, Balaram realized, make the connection. He looked at Krishna, he looked at Radha and Krishna.
We got it.
Okay. So Balaram looked at Krishna without saying anything, and like implying, okay, now I understand why you created this whole Govardhana Leela. I mean, there are so many levels of reason, not chastising Indra, protecting Rajabhas, but ultimately, it was just to have one weekly non-interrupted darshan of Sri Radha. I saw you. So that's when Krishna, realizing, oh, my Dauji, my elder brother noticed me, he went like, he looked, how you say, down? No, ashamed, like, okay. I was calm. So that's the deity that they're working with.
Not Dwara.
Yeah, not the Dwar.
In Udaipur, actually, not in Gujarat.
Yeah, not the Dwar. Yeah. So that's the headquarters of the Pala. So they have the deity now. Town hall. Whatever. Trinathji ki jai. So going to the other Gopal, remember, Sakshi Gopal Mahaprabhu was there. I won't tell that in detail, but there's a whole story when one elder Brahmana was going with another younger Brahmana in pilgrimage. And the younger Brahmana was like assisting the elder one. So the elder one was so pleased with the service of the younger one that said, I'm so pleased with you that I would like to give you my daughter in marriage to you. And the younger Brahman say, I mean, I'm so falling, I do not deserve that. I'm from a lower Brahmin caste, all these social considerations of the time. So it's okay. But the elder Brahman insisted, please. So the younger Brahman kind of felt, okay, but maybe that will create some problems. So do you promise that to me? He said, yes. But you have to promise that in the name of Gopal, he said. Now there was a nearby deity of Gopal. So we will take him as witness in case some problem comes. You promise that in front of him? So the elder Brahman said, yes. But eventually the elder Brahman came and all his family opposed to his idea. Because not this younger Brahman is from lower caste and all these social considerations and so on. So eventually the whole thing was, okay, the younger Brahmins and the elder Brahman became so much pressure that he even denied. No, I didn't say anything for a moment. So the younger Brahman said, okay, I will call Gopal. And the elder Brahman said, okay, if Gopal gives his testimony, I accept, we will accept. So he goes to Gopal and presents his case. This happened, please come with me and give testimony. So he's speaking to the deity, which supposedly doesn't speak, doesn't walk, doesn't give testimony. But he does, actually, if we really have the proper Shraddha. So this Brahmin had that Shraddha. So he went to Gopal and Gopal said, okay, I will go. I will follow behind you. You don't look back. You just walk and you will hear that I'm joining you by hearing my ankle bells sounding, speaking, walking behind you. So in this way that happened. The Brahmin walked and he was hearing Krishna's ankle bells. So Gopal was, and eventually when they reached the place, the Brahmin went, take a turn and Gopal was there. Say, okay, you go and pick the rest. I will give testimony. I will remain here without moving. Okay, and the Brahmin went. So eventually, everything happened. And happy end to the story. Now the other Brahmin came and Gopal gave testimony, and from that on, the deity is called Sakshi Gopal. So Sakshi means witness, basically. So Gopal, how to say, bearing witness, bearing witness to the Brahmin's promise. So the Brahmin's words do not go in vain, basically. So Mahaprabhu stopped in this temple also on his way, and he shared this story with his associate, which is the standard of parikram. You go to one place, and there's Harikatha in connection to what happened in that place, and everyone gets absorbed in that, and so on. So Sakshi Gopal ki jai. So then, I don't know where we will end today. You have time today, right?
Yes.
Okay, you have a long day today, so I appreciate your time. So then Mahaprabhu goes to another place called Kamalpur, and I have to mention this briefly. He takes a bath there, and he leaves his sannyas staff or rod, you say, with Nityananda, or Chaitanya Bharat say with Jagadananda, but at one point Jagadananda gives to Nityananda. And the point that we all know, may know it, Nityananda takes Mahaprabhu's Ekadanda that he received from Kesha Bharati and makes it a Tridanda, but in a unique way, taking the one staff and breaking it into 3 pieces. basically. So, and throw into the river, even. So it is said that mostly different reasons why he did that. He considered Mahaprabhu as topmost type of sannyas, which is the Paramahamsa, which is not carrying any stuff even. He's beyond the danda. Or because he accepted from Kesha Bharati, as we know, Ekadanda, because Kesha Bharati, at least overtly, was an Advaitin, but converted by Mahaprabhu in that same spot. But he received one danda. The Advaita Vedantins carry this Ekadanda, which means one. It's all about one, becoming one. But the Vaishnavas carry three danda, which is mind, body, and words in the service of Bhagavan. So Nityananda break it in three places to show this is Vaishnav sannyas. No, this is not Ekadanda sannyas. This is not, and some other reasons in that connection. So, well, we continue. We are getting closer and closer to Jagannath Puri, almost there. We are 10 kilometers from Puri, so it's not that far. So at 10 kilometers in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu is seeing the flag in the dome of the Jagannath temple. Every day they change the flag. There is a whole story behind that. There are generations and generations of sevakas who only, quote unquote, services just change the flag every day. And they climb the whole dome without any stairs or something. Maybe you have seen that image. They are like, quite, yeah, really. This type of people, how they call it together, doing parkour, something like this. They were the original ones, basically. So Mahaprabhu sees the flag, which it is says is non-different from having darshan of Jagannath. So he becomes ecstatic by seeing just the flag of Jagannath. Imagine after months and months, you remember, their minds are in advance there, or to speak Mahaprabhu's mind. So he starts to dance ecstatically along with his associates. So he reaches one like entry gate called Attaranal in Jagannath Puri. And this is when Mahaprabhu, at this point, Mahaprabhu doesn't have a clue about what happened with his danda. But he knew Nityananda had the danda. So can you give me my danda back? So Nityananda said, no. Abadu said, it broke in three parts. I said, but what? How did it happen? Basically, I say, well, you were dancing in ecstasy and you fell over me and we fell over the danda and it broke. So, and where are those three parts? And he says, I don't have a clue. So, and Nityananda say, well, if you don't want to forgive me for this, Nityananda say, you chastise me as you consider. So Mahaprabhu shows himself externally angry with Nityananda. Externally, internally, he cannot be but pleased with him, understanding the real purpose of that. And he said, you bereft me, deprived me of my only company, because for a sannyasi, the only company sometimes it is said is the danda. So externally showing himself angry, says, you go first to Jagannath. I will go alone. Like, you are breaking my danda and all this stuff. You go first or after me, but I will go on my own. So it is said that Mahaprabhu goes first by himself, entering Jagannath Puri, and the rest of his devotees, Nityananda and some others, are following him. So then we finally reached Jagannath Puri. Sorry, it took almost an hour to reach there, but there were some important things too. And for us to understand, it's not just about, again, getting to the place. Okay, now we're there, but all this momentum that is created by all these different leelas. So today we will share one leela of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, which is connected to the very arrival of himself there. And this one of the most well-known ones, which is the redemption of Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which happened basically on day one, or started to happen on day one. There was a week on some sessions there and so on. So as you know, Mahaprabhu was ecstatic just seeing the flag. So you can imagine, the closer he got to Jagannath Puri, seeing the flag, seeing the dome, seeing the temple, seeing the gate, he just enters into the temple. Remember, who is Mahaprabhu? He's Krishna trying to experience Radha Bhav. Now, who is Jagannath? We'll speak more on Sunday, but some trailer here. We could say Mahaprabhu is Radha in separation from Krishna. He's Krishna, but predominantly in the mood of Radha in separation from Krishna. So in that sense, he is Radha in separation from Krishna. And who is Jagannath? He is Krishna in separation from Radha. So you just can try to just imagine what must be that meeting. Krishna in separation from Radha, Radha in separation from Krishna. That's Mahaprabhu arriving to Jagannath Puri. So he just entered running into the temple of Jagannath, like running like crazy and shouting and who knows what more. I need to say that in ecstasy he started running, and in ecstasy he fainted on the way. Because just already to enter a temple running and shouting is ecstatic, but his ecstasy was so big that it overflowed in the way that he collapsed on the way. He wanted just to go and embrace Jagannath. That was his standard, basically, of worshiping Jagannath. No. And on the way of trying to embrace Jagannath, he collapsed there. So at that point, certain, like, how do you say, like, caretakers, temple guards, they saw Mahaprabhu, and it was like such a shock for them, because that was not the standard generally. I mean, people enter into the temple, offer something, behave in a certain way, and this unique volcanic person enter and shouting and wanting to embrace the deity, but collapsing on the way. So all the temple guards like came, even trying to beat Mahaprabhu, thinking this person is crazy, is in public danger or something. So when those people were about to beat Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya appeared there on the spot, being himself like a main, we could say like counselor of the king, even like the guru of Prataparudra Maharaj, who was not present at Puri at that time. Prataparudra Maharaj were on some conquest outside of some other, conquest. Thank you, in other places. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya appears there and stops the temple guards. No, do not beat him. He could see, even though he was a monist at this time, Advaita Vedantin, he could appreciate this person is not ordinary. He's not just crazy. I mean, he's crazy, but not just crazy. Another type of madness. He perceived there are ecstatic symptoms here. So he took Mahaprabhu to his home. So again, the whole conversion of Sarvabhauma began at that point. So Sarvabhauma, as we know, he's Brihaspati, also considered the guru of the Devas, and we are now in Gaur Lila to upgrade his position, if you will. So he takes Mahaprabhu to his home, and at this point, all the devotees, remember, were behind Mahaprabhu arriving to Puri, also ecstatic, singing and dancing and rolling on the ground, and eventually, and they start to look, where is Mahaprabhu? So they went to the temple of Jagannath and look for Mahaprabhu, and eventually they got the news. This happened, and he was taken to the house of Sarvabhauma. So they went to Sarvabhauma's house, and Mahaprabhu still was lying unconscious for hours. It is say like it lasted for 9 hours, his fainting, and that was a daily affair. Kirtan, fainting, and so on. So the devotees came, very happy seeing Mahaprabhu, and they started to chant Harinam in a soft way, trying to bring Mahaprabhu back to what we call external consciousness. I mean, external in one sense, there's nothing external in Mahaprabhu, but out of his inner trance, if you will. So it is said that from that day on, from day one, Mahaprabhu realized, I cannot take darshan of Jagannath in close proximity. So from that day on, his standard was, he went daily to the Garuda Stamba, which is a big pillar that it's not right inside, close to the temple, but on some distance. And from there, he will take darshan of Jagannath, because he knew if I go beyond this, who knows what will happen. So that's the first day of Mahaprabhu in Puri, just to have you an idea. So when Mahaprabhu comes back to his external consciousness, he like reveres, Sarvabhauma reveres Mahaprabhu, saying, Om Narayana. That's how the Advaitins monists will greet each other, Om Narayana, like, my respects to you, Narayan. And the other will say, my respects to you, Narayan. No, because and ultimately they consider all of us are the absolute, basically, in every sense of the term, Advaita Vedanta. So Mahaprabhu replied, saying, Krishna Matirastu. He didn't say, no, he didn't reply in the same way, because that shows Mahaprabhu was not in Advaitin sannyas. He said, Krishna Matirastu, which is a line of the Bhagavatam pronounced by Prahlad, which means, may you be Krishna conscious, basically. Krishna Matir. Matir means intelligence or mind, consciousness. Be with Krishna. May you be Krishna conscious. So he very clearly when them this the Bhattacharya understood, oh, he's a Vaishnava sannyasi. These codes were there. I mean, everyone knew how to greet each other. Oh, you are from this sect because you greeted me in this way, and you're from this sect. Although Mahaprabhu seemed like an Advaita sannyasi. So then Sarvabhauma starts to inquire from Gopinath. Gopinath, he was, how do you say in English? Brother-in-law. He was Sarvabhauma's brother-in-law. So he started to inquire because Gopinath was a devotee of Mahaprabhu. So what's the background of Mahaprabhu? What's the background of his sannyas? But to begin with, what's the background of Mahaprabhu? So we got to know, oh, he's the grandson of Nilambar Chakrabarti. Mahaprabhu's son, the grandson of Nilambar Chakrabarti, who was the father of Mahaprabhu's father, Jagannath Mishra. So he realized, oh, we have some connection, some family ties, because Sarvabhauma, oh, Nilambar Chakrabarti was a classmate of my father. So immediately Sarvabhauma felt some like, I don't know, we are part of the same, birds of the same feather flock, even though there were some differences, but he kind of felt some affection towards Mahaprabhu. I remember Sarvabhauma was an old, seasoned fellow. Mahaprabhu was a very young, fresh sannyasi. So he can also feel some vatsalya, like, oh, such a nice boy, so beautiful, sannyasi, 24 years. So, and of course, Mahaprabhu was behaving with Sarvabhauma as an elder. I mean, Sarvabhauma is the elder, I'm a junior. So he said, oh, I'm a very naive, if you will, sannyasi. I just received sannyas. I don't know too much about anything. So what's good, what is not? So I take shelter in you, Sarvabhauma. You are such a learned personality, topmost pandit in the whole world. That was a fact. So I take you as my guru. In one sense, Sarvabhauma is one of Mahaprabhu's gurus, in the way of how Mahaprabhu behaves with himself, basically. And Mahaprabhu says, I came to Puri only to have your association and instruction. So please instruct me. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya becomes compassionate, if you will, and says, oh, you are such a young sannyasi. So generally people accept sannyas when they are elder, and when they have gone through married life, grihasthashram, vanaprasthashram, sannyasashram, if they are still alive, if you will. And sometimes these ages are given, like brahmachari from 1 to 25, grihastha 25 to 50, vanaprastha 50 to 75, sannyasis from 75 to 100 or something like this. A general idea, of course. No? But there it was this young sannyasi, 24. So Sarvabhauma said, you are young. To accept sannyas. I took sannyas at 28. So I'm not comparing with Mahaprabhu. But my point is that you accept the order and you have some idea, you try to prepare, but at the same time, how much experience you have being 20 something. Of course, Mahaprabhu is Mahaprabhu, but Sarvabhauma didn't consider Mahaprabhu is Mahaprabhu. He just felt this is a young sannyasi. He has no experience of the world, and he took such, lifelong vows. I will try to instruct him on Vedanta to, to ground him in knowledge, so the waves of this world do not disturb him. I wouldn't like him to break his vows as a sannyasi. That's happened. Sarvabhauma knew. So, and also he knew, he inquired about his sannyas lineage, and he said he received sannyas from Keshav Bharat, and according to Sarvabhauma, he thought that's a lower sannyas lineage. In the Advaita Vedantis, they have different categories. So I will instruct him, trying to elevate him to a higher sannyas status. That was the good intention of Sarvabhauma. So of course he explained all this to Gopinath and to Mukunda, associates of Mahaprabhu. I will instruct him. I will try to elevate him. And you can imagine, Sarvabhauma, Mukunda, Gopinath were like, what are you saying? He's Bhagavan himself. Are you crazy? You want to instruct, you think you will protect him from the waves of this world? He's the origin of this world. He's the source of Maya Shakti. And Sarvabhauma still was a jnani at this stage. So he said, give me some evidence of that. You cannot just say he's God. In India, it happens a lot. This boy of my town, he's God now. Oh, okay, another one. Yeah, okay. Add him to the list of town boy avatars or something. So he said, give me argument, give me logic, convince me in a proper way. And Gopinath said, you cannot understand who God is only by logic. As we say, yesterday, Tarka Pratishtana. Only because of the mercy, of his mercy, you will be able to understand. And the fact that you do not accept that means you haven't not received his mercy. So Gopinath was his brother-in-law. He was able to speak like this to Sarvabhauma. And he continued with this. You are the greatest Pandit on earth, but you have not received Kripa, Bhagavan Kripa. And that's why you still think of him in ordinary terms. And then that's when Sarvabhauma quotes the famous section, but according to Shastra, Bhagavan is, you say he's Bhagavan. Okay, let's speak about that. According to Shastra, Bhagavan is not coming in Kali Yuga. The Shastra say he's Tri Yuga. He comes only in 3 ages. Three ages, Yuga. Satya, Treta, and Dwapara. Not Kali. We're in Kali. There's no Bhagavan in Kali, he said. Sarvabhauma presented that argument. And yeah, he's called Tri Yuga in the scriptures. But that's, and then Gopinath retorts quoting Mahabharata and quoting the Bhagavat, like Chano, when Prahlad Maharaj said Chano avatar, Kalo Chana. In Kali, Bhagavan descends Chana avatar in a hidden way. He's not overtly presenting himself, I'm Bhagavan, but he comes in the mood of a devotee, Bhakta avatar. And then he quotes further Krishna Varnan, Tusar Krishnam, Sango, and many other verses that for us go just speak about Mahaprabhu. So again, and he repeats, Gopinath repeats, the fact that you cannot accept nor understand this is you have not received the grace. He's on the way of receiving that. He's already doing that, but still he's in the process of conversion. So eventually Gopinath and Mukunda go to Mahaprabhu and said, this Sarvabhauma said that he wants to instruct you and he wants to protect you and save you from your vows and all this nonsense. And Mahaprabhu very humbly said, no, Sarvabhauma is like a father to me. He's my well-wisher. He wants to protect me. That was a fact. He wanted to protect him in that particular mood. So next day begins this. This was mostly the first day that Mahaprabhu came to Puri. So the next day officially starts Sarvabhauma's quote-unquote schooling Mahaprabhu in Vedanta, the famous weekly retreat. No, they had a retreat there, another retreat. It was a Mauna retreat, basically, from the side of Mahaprabhu. It was like this Vipassana they do for a week without speaking. So that was not from the side of Sarvabhauma, but from the side of Mahaprabhu. So Sarvabhauma started to present all this Vedantic wisdom from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, explaining Vedanta Sutra, according to this Saririk Bhashya, which is the commentary of Sankaracharya, for a week, every single day. Deep, thick, terse lessons, dry gyan. So Mahaprabhu was hearing attentively without blinking for a week, but without saying a word. Without saying a word. And my Guru Maharaj will say, at this point, Mahaprabhu converted Sarvabhauma by not saying anything. By silence, he converted the greatest Pandit on earth. Why? Because his achar was so powerful that he didn't need to present any prachar. His achar means his personal example conduct, what was emanating from him, was so powerful that he just converted the greatest logician without saying a word, just by being there. No? And after a week, the greatest logician was just like, what's going on? No? And after that, there will be some checkmate, if you will, that Mahaprabhu will say some things. But just with that week of silence, Sarvabhauma was totally like out of his mind. No? That speaks about the importance of example speaking louder than precept. We know the word achar means conduct, and prachar sometimes translated as preaching, but the word prachar, actually the etymology of that is achar, pra. The word prachar includes achar and includes pra. Pra means a very special type of. So prachar, which translates as preaching, is a very special type of achar. That's preaching. And if you take as I heard once, you take from the word prachar, the word achar, the only thing that remains is PR, public relationships. So be careful what you do in the name of preaching. So, well, the point is that this, no, Sarvabhauma seated with Mahaprabhu for a week. The duty of a sannyasi is to study Vedanta, not to dance like an emotionalist like you are doing. So please sit, learn with me. So for 7 days I will, and he starts to speak. And after a week, Sarvabhauma asks, so do you have any question? Is clear for you? I mean, I can tell, I noticed that you are looking at me and you're paying attention, but you don't say anything. Every time I present Vedanta, all the greatest pandits of the world praise my presentation and are overwhelmed by all the things I'm saying, and you're not saying a single word. But I cannot say you are not listening. You are listening. So he's, what's going on here? Do you have any question? Was it clear? He said, well, basically, the points presented in Vedanta are quite clear, but the way you presented them made them totally unclear. So Sarvabhauma was, what? First time in my life someone is saying something, everyone is like praising whatever I say. You are telling me that I'm getting on the way with my explanation, I'm getting on the way of real meaning of Vedanta. You say, do you have a better explanation of Vedanta you could share? Basically, no? And of course, Mahaprabhu said, yes, for sure. I mean, there's no need to, even the Bhagavatam itself is a natural explanation of Vedanta, so you don't need to create some forced interpretation like you are doing. Of course, Sarvabhauma was trying to explain Vedanta according to Sankaracharya, and Mahaprabhu started to show Sankaracharya's argument get in the way of the real Vedanta. So there's some, again, already at this point, Sarvabhauma was almost ready for conversion. It's just a checkmate movement. So Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma presented some argument from the Advaita and Vedanta side. We won't enter into detail with that. And Mahaprabhu refuted them all like, no, in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. No, establishing, no, the Vedas are speaking about Sambandha, Videya, Prayojan, Bhakti, the soul rendering Bhakti to Bhagavan, that's the ultimate, and so on. And what Sankara did, he's Mahadev himself with some particular mission given to him by Bhagavan. So because of this, he said this and this. So there's no fault in him. We are not criticizing Sankaracharya. Ki jai. Mahadev. So the point is that at this point, Sarvabhauma was like Uddhava here in Brahmad Gita, basically, like speechless. Like, like, and now he was in silence, basically. He didn't know what to do. So in this way, Mahaprabhu starts to praise the greatness of Bhakti. Again, I'm summarizing long chapters to praise the greatness of Bhakti, how Bhakti is the ultimate goal of Vedanta. And Krishna himself says in the Gita this and so on. And to close his explanation, he goes and quotes this famous verse of the Bhagavad, the Atmaram Shloka. Atmaramas chamonayo nirgranta atirukrame kurbanti ahaitu kim bhaktim itambutam gunohari. There's a famous verse which speaks how Atmarams, self-satisfied personalities, nirgranta atirukrame, who are beyond all worldly knots, if you will, even though they are not nothing attracts them, basically, because they find joy in the self, nonetheless, they are attracted to Bhakti, which shows how Bhakti is a post-liberated condition. You follow? Because even the liberated people is attracted to Bhakti. So it means the liberated people is not attracted to anything from this world. It shows Bhakti is otherworldly. So basically, it's a very famous verse of the Bhagavad, which speaks also about Sukadev Goswami, who was an Atmaram himself, and who felt attracted to Harikatha, to Bhakti, and so on. So Mahaprabhu presents this idea of showing even someone who is a liberated person. You speak so much about mukti, 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 Mahaprabhu says. Okay, the muktas are attracted to Bhakti. So Bhakti is above mukti. So Sarvabhauma says, please explain this verse to me. I understand the gist of that, but please unpack that. Mahaprabhu said, you please explain it first. What do you understand by this verse? And so Sarvabhauma starts to explain, mostly in logic, that was his language, basically, not according to bhava and rasa and so on, in 9 different ways. which, I mean, it's already a lot. For some people, it may be even difficult to explain it in one way. Sarvabhauma explained it in 9 ways, based on Tarka, which is logic. So Mahaprabhu like praises that and says, but also this verse could be understood from another perspectives. And of course, with more devotional nuance there. So he goes and starts to explain this Atmaram verse in 18 different ways, without touching any of the 9 ways explanation that Sarvabhauma did. And all of them in the context of bhakti, 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 going around the idea of Atmaram. So this was like the final, how do you say?
Love.
Another way of not checkmate, but trust. Okay. So at this point, Sarvabhauma is fully convinced. He reminded the words of his brother-in-law Gopinath, he's Bhagavan himself. He's not an ordinary boy, a young sannyasi. So Sarvabhauma at this point really accepted, surrendered to Mahaprabhu, to his divinity. And Mahaprabhu at this moment now gives his mercy in the form of darshan. And he shows a famous form of him called Sadbhuj. Sadbhuj Mahaprabhu, which means 6th arm Mahaprabhu. 2 arms like Krishna, 2 arms like Ram, 2 arms like Mahaprabhu, like sannyasi with danda and kamandalu. The danda appeared again for the darshan. was there. And then it is said that he, after showing Sadbhuj, he showed Chaturbhuj, 4 arms, just in case. And then he shows Dvibhuj, he formed Krishna. So you can imagine how Sarvabhauma was at this point after having this triple darshan. So he fell to the floor and started to praise Mahaprabhu. And on the spot, he composed 100 verses, 100 Sanskrit prayers. He was a genius and now was a devotional genius. So he composed 100 prayers to Mahaprabhu called Sarvabhauma Sataka. Those are famous, very nice ones. Let me share one verse of that. Very nice one. Verse 18. Which is like we spoke the other day about that. We have this very famous verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Yatayata Gaura Padara Vindam Vinde Tabaktin Krita Punya Rasi Tatat Sartapa Khridya Kashmat Radha Padam Boja Sudam Buras. The more you go deep into the Mahaprabhu, the service of Gaur's feet, the more you emerge into the service of Sri Radha. No? You go deep in Gaur Lila, you emerge in Krishna Lila. But here, Sarvabhauma, we are also getting the last section, he's saying the other way around. So he says, Yatarada padam bhuje bhakti shat primalakshana tathaiva Krishna chaitanya bhardate madhurarati. The amount of devotion one develops for the lotus feet of Sri Radha, that amount one increases in his devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Krishna chaitanya. So it's the other idea. The more you go deep into Radha Seva or Krishna Lila, let's say, the more you emerge in Gaur Lila. So the two are, my Guru Maharaj will say, how do you say with the jacket? What's the word?
Reversible.
Reversible jacket. No? Gaur Lila, Krishna Lila. Krishna Lila's black jacket with golden cuffs. Gaur Lila's golden jacket with black cuffs. One and the same. Different degrees of that. So Sarvabhauma becomes fully converted. And naturally the whole city of Puri was a city, big city, kingdom also, was affected by that because Sarvabhauma was the guru of the king, basically. So if the guru of the king is converted, the king is converted. And if the king is converted, the kingdom is converted eventually. At this point, this didn't happen because, again, the king was not at home. But as we will see eventually, when Mahaprabhu returns from South India, that will happen eventually. But the point is that Jagannath Puri became like flooded in a current, in a wave of divine love. And as my Guru Maharaj likes to say, Jagannath Puri was such a powerful kingdom, so properly, how do you say, like protected, that no other invaders could enter and conquer it as it was custom on those times, Muslims and so on. But this young boy, quote unquote young boy, of 24 years entered and conquered the whole city almost in the first day, the first week, if you will. So the point is they were not able to be conquered by any military force, but the force of Prem can conquer all obstacles, basically. So if you give me one few minutes, I would like just to share one brief pastime that shows the degree of Sarvabhauma's conversion, as also my Guru Maharaj likes to share in terms of karma, jnana, and bhakti. So it is said that after this day, the official day of Sarvabhauma's conversion, Mahaprabhu goes to visit him the next day in the morning. Sarvabhauma was sleeping, maybe 3 a.m. or something. Mahaprabhu comes there and enters into his room with Jagannath Prasad, famous Mahaprasad. So he wanted to test, if you will, if Sarvabhauma's bhakti was Uttam bhakti, or if it was karma mishra bhakti and other types of mishra bhakti, mixed devotion. So first he wanted to test Sarvabhauma. Let's see if your bhakti is karma mishra bhakti, bhakti mixed with like ritualistic considerations. So he brought Jagannath Mahaprasad at 3 a.m. Sarvabhauma didn't take bath, didn't brush his teeth, didn't executed any morning duty whatsoever, anything. He was just still sleeping there. So Mahaprabhu came. Jagannath Mahaprabhu. What will you do? Because if you are following all this karma mark, that is, maybe we are not accustomed to that. We are not living in the Varnashram society, but at that time that's what quite prevalent. So you have to first realize these certain duties, morning duties and prayers before you can eat something. So in that perception, karma is about bhakti. Bhakti means Jagannath Mahaprasad in this case. And karma means my morning, daily duties and prayers and worship of this day. So Mahaprabhu said, let's see where Sarvabhauma is. And he put like Jagannath Mahaprasad in front of his face. And Sarvabhauma immediately took Jagannath Mahaprasad, honored it, and started to honor that from the bed immediately. Like, I start to glorify Mahaprasad. There's no rules to honor Mahaprasad and bhaktis and so on, like a bhakta, like a devotee. I don't care for karma kanda. I don't care for all this morning ritual. Jai Jagannath Mahaprasad ki jai. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, first test passed. Your bhakti is about karma. So the second test, Sarvabhauma himself created it, if you will. Like the next day or something, in those next days, Sarvabhauma came one day to Mahaprabhu with the Bhagavatam and was like disturbed with one verse of the Bhagavatam, a famous one. Krishna Karnam knows that one. You quoted that yesterday. Something with mukti. Something with mukti pade. Something with tattenu kampam susamekshama. Vatma kritam vipakam, baput bir vidam namaste, jiveta jo mukti pade sadaya. So that word mukti for Sarvabhauma was like traumatizing. So he came up with Mahaprabhu, like the example we did the other day, Yoga Kshamam Bahamyaham. I don't like Bahami. I put Sarvabhauma scratched mukti. I said to Mahaprabhu, I don't like this word mukti. I don't like even to read that. How can it be in the Bhagavad mukti? And Mahaprabhu was like charmed, like, wow, I mean, 2 days back you were all about mukti because you were an baiting monists. I mean, for them it's mukti and everything converges in mukti. But after Mahaprabhu's conversion, he couldn't even hear the word mukti. What to speak of pursuing mukti, sayuja mukti. Just the word mukti was like, oof, no, like vivatsa rasa, like, oh, disgust. So, but of course, Mahaprabhu told him, he was charmed, like saying, nice, your bhakti is beyond gyan. That's the same next stage. Gyan, Mishra Bhakti, no, there. You're not practicing bhakti for obtaining the goal of gyan, which is mukti. You can hear the word mukti. So, but Mahaprabhu said, you cannot just scratch the Bhagavatam. I mean, for some reason, those words are there. So in this case, I respect you, I honor your feeling, but this verse actually says mukti pade. So mukti pade means that at the feet of Bhagavan, mukti resides. For a bhakta, a bhakta is not after mukti. As we know, a bhakta is not after anything in that sense. The famous, which is this verse, Narayana parasarve, api nakutushana bibhyati, swarga paparga, swarga paparga, no, there's some word I'm missing. Swarga papargasya, whatever. Api tulyartha darshana, no problem. Yeah. The idea, the idea is the same point. A devotee doesn't care, a real devotee of Krishna doesn't care for going to the higher planetary system, going to hell, obtaining liberation. Swarga, Pavarga, Naraka, Suvat.
Happy to hear.
Yeah, because for them, all these things are the same, because he's so concerned with bhakti. The mukti, bhukti, all this stuff is like, what? I mean, of course, we can go to extremes and say Kaibalyam, Narakayati, and all this type of expressions that are very subjectively ecstatic from the Vaishnava perspective. Mukti is hellish. And I don't care even for hell. So that's the same for me, whatever. The point is that the devotees, Sarvabhauma was showing my bhakti is beyond Gyan. I don't care for mukti. So Mahaprabhu explained, no, but this word mukti here can remain in the Bhagavatam. That is showing how at the feet of Bhagavan and the bhakti, all mukti is included. Even if you don't care for that, it's there. That's showing it's subservient to bhakti, actually. Mukti is described as coming as a maidservant to bhakti, offering whatever favors you can offer. So that's the second level. No? Sarvabhauma's bhakti is about not only karma, but gyan. And the last one, and with this I'm kind of transgressing today's topic and entering to what I will be speaking tomorrow, but it's just some trailer, basically, that is connected with Mahaprabhu's journey to South India. When Mahaprabhu officially established I'm going to South India, Sarvabhauma will advise him, oh please, you go and meet Ramananda Roy. I've known him before, I never understood him. I thought he was crazy, but now that I am crazy, and I can understand him. Because I can understand you also. All of us are crazy now, intoxicated with divine love, so we can understand each other. But before I thought this guy is really dysfunctional. Because Ramananda worked in the government for Prataparudra Maharaj. So now that I understood, as my Guru said, you and him had something in common. So please, when you go to South India, you meet him. And of course, that meeting of Mahaprabhu with Ramananda Roy will be the main point of Mahaprabhu's journey to South India, the main reason for him to go there. We will speak about that tomorrow. But with this advice, Sarvabhauma showed also not only his bhakti is above karma and above gyan, that is a type of bhakti with a sensibility for rasa, if you will. So Sarvabhauma realized what's Mahaprabhu's inner mood, and how that inner mood, that project he had, I want to taste Radha Bhav, that can be upgraded in the company of Roy Ramananda, who, as we know, eventually will become one of his two main assistants and helping him so much to be successful in this. But those things we will be explaining along these days. So today I want to finish here, like showing the degree of some level at least of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's conversion. And tomorrow we will continue describing Mahaprabhu's journey to South India. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai. So I don't know if there are any questions. I know we already have spoken for quite a long time, but maybe some few ones. And if there are further questions tomorrow in the morning, of course, we'll have more the Q&A session. Yeah.
Yeah, some clarifications. I didn't want to interrupt. 3 questions. I will say them all at once.
Okay.
Was Sarvabhauma Charya a sannyasi?
No.
No, just Brahmin.
Yeah, Grihastha.
Okay. And second, did you said they sat for a whole week? Were they like really mystically renounced? Did they not sleep? Did they
No. It's not. I'd say like a week, not without stopping every single sense, but in 10 sessions every single day, basically, for hours and hours per day. But they wouldn't have a problem without stopping that. I mean, the two of them were pretty extraordinary personalities. Even before conversion, Sarvabhauma, I don't think he had a problem by speaking without interruption for a week about Vedanta. But that's not mentioned. Third question.
Did Mahaprabhu accept his 9 explanations on Atmaram verse based on Tarka?
No, actually, he didn't accept. I mean, he, in a formal way, he respected them because, again, Sarvabhauma is a senior to him. So there is some formal respect. But at the same time, all those explanations were still, to that point, on the line of Sankaracharya. So, of course, Mahaprabhu won't be accepted there. So he's, in a gentle way, say, thank you so much for sharing. But if you allow me, I can try to shed some further light on that. And he really show the meaning of the Atmaram verse in the context of Bhakti. Okay. Something else? Yeah.
Asking about, yeah, I think this subject comes up, I mean, once in a while, but it seems that so much importance is, there's so much focus in dreams. So we say how important are dreams in sadhaka's life. I mean, sometimes we can have a deep, like kind of the dream that kind of we think is meaningful, but how to tell it's meaningful, it meant like results or something. Maybe it's just a figment of our imagination or some subconscious stuff.
Yeah, that's of course a complex issue, and we are not saying that every dream is the same thing. There are so many. Of course, in the case of someone like Madhavendra Puri, etc., they are not dreaming, strictly speaking. When we speak about this different, I won't go into detail, but there are levels of consciousness, like the 3 levels that they say, like awoke, sleeping, and susupti or deep sleep, and Turyatita Gopal, and there is the 4th. So the point is, they are beyond all these levels. So they sleep, but they do not sleep. They dream, but they do not dream. Is part of their. Of course, that's the case of this kind of personalities. In our case, of course, if you are dreaming about Krishna and Guru, what I will tell you, no, that was not true. Of course, if you are dreaming some totally weird stuff in connection to the Vaishnava, that's another thing. If it's totally like rasa, basa, apasiddhanta, or whatever, I mean, okay, that you have to understand some different impressions got mixed there.
The word that it's like the English word dream would be an approximation of the term that's used. For example, in this verse, that would be referring to this, the state, the studia, something like that.
Exactly.
It's not like a dream we mean.
Yeah. Of course, they speak in terms of dream because they are sleeping and dreaming, but they are not at the same time. Although the same word may be used, but at the same time, the personalities I describe in such a way that you understand they're totally beyond that. But yeah, for us as sadhakas, I will say you don't go. I mean, if you have again auspicious dreams, and Krishna can appear whenever, whatever he likes. Of course, he can make it clear.
Like Wi-Fi, spiritual Wi-Fi.
It's a good one. But I would say also that one as sadhaka shouldn't get too neurotic, because sometimes, in the sense of neurotic, if you have not very nice dreams, that which can happen, and sometimes it's still some dust in the Chetadarpana, I mean, in the mirror of your subconscious, and it's not that you have the intention of dreaming about certain weird stuff, but that comes at that moment because there's not like conscious filter of the mind and so on. But I mean, do not get discouraged. That's my point. If you woke up and say, "Oh, I didn't dream about Krishna, but dream about this prajalpic stage or something," and you are in the process of cleaning the chitta. So we have to have another dream. We also use the term in English, I have a dream in my life. So in this way, those are the type of dreams we have to culture. And eventually, the other dreams, these ideals in our life will come. Sibanidhi, have one question?
Yeah, I think I'll save it for tomorrow, because I'd like to have
more expanded reply.
Well, it's a little. Yeah, I want to have a more space for it.
Yeah. We are almost speaking for an hour and a half, so I think we can stop here.
Okay, short question.
The question can be short.
The
answer.
My question is about the position of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Because he's not sadhana siddha. Is he nitya siddha or he's kripa siddha?
Well, I have never read anyone like describing him in one of or other of those categories. What we hear is his Brihaspati. So now the question is, as we were speaking the other day, which Brihaspati? That's another topic. That's what I say can be long answer, because we know there are devas in the material world, but there are devas in Golok also. And the devas in the material world are just like shadow reflection of the original ones in Golok. So when we say Sarvabhauma is Brihaspati, which Brihaspati? Because there are devas here and there, and there are one guru for them here and there also. I never read about that. I don't think if there is something about that, we may continue exploring and inquiring. But that's an interesting venue. But I've never read about him being described as
He's not mentioned.
Nitya Siddha, or I mean, if he's, I will say, and this is again on some conjecture, if he were to be the Brihaspati of Golok, yeah, then he's a Nitya Siddha, because there's always some Brihaspati in Golok, and there are always those devas. Now his Brihaspati on earth, that's a more relative situation, because as we know, the devas is opposed, even that of Brihaspati. So that will change. So in that case, they are not Nitya Siddhas. They will be mostly sadhana siddhas. But of course, in this case, we see that Sarvabhauma was not engaged in previous bhakti sadhana to obtain his upgraded position. So in that case, one can say Kripa Siddhi. He obtained Kripa Siddhi.
He's not mentioned in Gaura Dipika.
That's mentioned Brihaspati.
Brihaspati.
But period.
Which
No further clarification. Which Brihaspati?
All the demigods were coming before, no? Like Shiva was also explained with Rudradvip. Like everyone was coming before to take waiting for Mahaprabhu to come. So in this sense, those demigods, did they come from Goloka or from here? From
That's more like, I would say, like a description that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives in the Navadvip Bhavataranga, mostly trying to make this parallel with Krishna's advent, where also it is known that the devas come with different forms. And so again, we could conjecture many things, but yeah, personally, I've never read.
What about Haridas Thakur?
Yeah,
Brahma. It would be like a similar situation. No?
Yeah.
Which if he's the Brahma, this Brahma.
Which type of the Brahmas is here?
Because he's the Brahma, like the same Brahma that go to meet like Krishna and go up the Lila.
Yeah, in the case of Haridas Thakur, it's a little bit more overtly clear that it's more the Brahma from here, I will say, because he's the one who commits the aparat on earth and mistakes.
So then he's sadhana.
Haridas Thakur.
Yes.
Yeah, you can consider as such, because I mean, he engaged in sadhana. You cannot tell he received Kripa Siddhi. I mean, like he was just lying there and doing nonsense and sadhana. He was chanting 3 lakhs per day every day. If you have a sadhana siddha, that's Haridas Thakur.
Like this will be like a great question, but now Haridas Thakur it's like eternal edition, for all future Gaura Lila, now. Or Haridas Thakur is like the new edition to the Lila. Or he was previously there, or
I mean, he's a sadhana siddha, I mean, he's not a Nitya Siddha.
so that means he's like the new edition.
Why not? We are to be a new edition also. There are news in the Lila. There are new waves of people arriving there and creating. Gopa Kumar coming to Golok. It's not that he was already there, so we are not speaking less of them. All it's a long topic, but this topic. If he's not a Nitya Siddha, you mean he's less and he's a sadhana siddha? No, it's a siddha, Srila Prabhupada say. Siddha. Nitya Siddha or sadhana siddha? The important word is siddha. And do not enter into this dual mind thing like who is better, who is worse. That's our own mind trying to make things. So we're going to stop here, and tomorrow, if there are further questions, continue in the morning and the evening. So thank you very much. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Binda ki jai, Gaur Premananda Haribo, Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Dipa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Haribo.